Those stories shortly, but first to Sydney's Villawood Detention Centre, where today saw a tense standoff between detainees and authorities. A group of men took to the compound's rooftop yesterday after another asylum seeker jumped to his death. Police were called in to intervene, but the incident has sparked calls for the overhaul of detention centres and the way asylum seekers are processed. Critics claim staff at these centres are poorly trained, underpaid and not equipped to deal with such fraught situations. Connor Duffy reports.
After a cold, uncomfortable night on the roof of the Villawood Detention Centre, 9 Tamils from Sri Lanka, an Iraqi and an Iranian continued their protest for a second day, pleading with the Immigration Department to reconsider their failed bids for asylum. Throughout the day, they grew more desperate, cutting themselves and displaying their own blood on banners calling for their release.
These people are totally desperate, they lost every hope. Mentally they are disturbed, very troubling conditions around and in the past and now. Future is very uncertain, so we are worried about their well-being, yes.
Our detention system is under considerable strain. I've been very upfront about that. It's under considerable strain at the moment, and we need to move people through as quickly as possible.
All the Sri Lankans have had their applications rejected and have told community leaders they want assurances they will be handed over to the UNHCR rather than returned to Sri Lanka.
In case if they're going to be rejected, they should not be returned to Sri Lanka under any circumstances because death is the simple news. They think they will wait. Third is, under that condition, they should be handed over to UNHCR.
The protest began yesterday, not long after a Fijian man, 36-year-old Joseph Raluni, took his own life after being told he would be deported to Fiji. Usea Wakatirawa from the Fiji Democracy and Freedom Movement says many people are fearful of the military government led by Colonel Frank Bainimarama.
People are still randomly being picked up in the middle of the night and taken to military installation.
Mr Raluni had been in the detention centre for a month after arriving legally in Australia and having a request for asylum rejected. Fijian community leaders say security staff at the centre were warned that the ruling had left Mr Raluni suicidal.
He finally got on the phone and he said, I'm really going to jump. I said, get the security guard. So he gave it to a man. The man answered and I said to the man, the guy is suicidal, he's not, he's going to jump. Can you please back off? I'm just around the corner from my house and I'm going to call immigration to try and tell you guys to back off. Can you just give me a few minutes? And then he said, you do what you have to do with immigration and I'll do what my job is. And he just hung up on me.
The performance of the private security staff at the detention centre came under scrutiny again today. Interpreters speaking to the rooftop protesters said the men alleged they were being taunted by the guards.
These people, the SECO management and security guards are provoking them by coming and laughing at them and said, do you want some water or do you want some food? And they become very angry and agitated and one of the guys has slashed himself by a sharp object.
The facilities in detention centres are very rudimentary. The detention centres basically resemble prisons. They are not equipped to deal with people with complex mental health needs, who have experiences of trauma and so on. The staff aren't trained in those areas. The staff are essentially administrative staff who keep the centres running.
I'll be looking at any lessons to be learnt from this. I'll be looking to see whether there's anything which could be improved, but that's something that's best done in the cold light of day, not while there are events unfolding at Villawood.
Right across the country, detention centres are stretched to breaking point, and refugee advocates are worried detainees will develop serious mental health problems.
Yes, look, I think it's very well established now that as a result of a whole lot of surveys and experience, not least on Nauru, that prolonged detention, and really that can mean anything beyond a few months, will affect a person's ability to cope and to deal, and progressively people get worse and worse in detention. So it's not surprising, and that's one of the issues about having a detention regime.
In recent weeks, there have been riots at a detention centre in Darwin, and some observers believe it's time to reassess the policy of mandatory detention.
The money devoted to maintaining and constructing new detention facilities ought to be channelled immediately into creating open reception centres where refugees can have their initial details processed, where they can have any immediate health needs attended to, and where they can then be given temporary visas to live in the Australian community while their claims are processed.
Very important that we look at increasing stability and security for asylum seekers in the region so that they don't feel the need to put their lives in the hands of people smugglers, so that there is some prospect that they will find a permanent solution to the situation they're in by way of resettlement, that there are proper high standard processing, proper reception conditions.
Last night, as the protest was underway at Villawood, the Immigration Minister Chris Bowen appeared on television and reiterated support for the mandatory detention system, though with some potential modifications.
Obviously, nobody likes to see children in particular in detention. I don't like to see it. And it's something that I'm having a good look at. But we do have a detention system in Australia. It's something which both sides of politics support because it is an important part of our process.
And it now appears the two-day standoff at Villawood is ending, with reports that the remaining asylum seekers have ended their protest and are voluntarily coming down from the roof. Connor Duffy with that report.